What is up, all Def Leppard fans and hard rock fans and all fans of all things great music? I've been receiving a lot of requests from quite a few of you, in fact, not some of you, quite a few of you, and you guys have been asking me when my review of Drastic Symphonies is going to come out. So, well, here it is. And straight off the bat, what we're going to do is I'm going to, as I usually do a deep dive into each of the tracks, share my thoughts. Would love to know what each of you think down below. But more importantly, I think we can all agree that this was something many of us would have liked to have seen Def Leppard do, and they've done it. The album has charted very well. There's a lot of success that they've enjoyed now, starting with, how Diamond Star Halos was last year and having this drop this year. And dare I say it, if you guys remember, I had spoken to you about the fact that Def Leppard, in terms of their album names, had an IA trilogy, which was Pyromania, Hysteria, and Euphoria. Well, guess what? Now they got a D trilogy of names with the self-titled record Def Leppard, which came out in 2015. And then you have Diamond Star Halos. And now, although this is not exactly a studio album, it's Drastic Symphonies. So the D trilogy of names, if you will. So two trilogy name titling of sorts. Just thought I'd point that out. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm not sure if the band has really spoken about that. If they have, please let me know down below. But I think overall it's a solid record. Really good choices of songs for the most part. And really like the production and the overall packaging. The cover art, let me start there, is pretty interesting. A little sparse, you could say. I mean, I know there's a violin. If you look carefully towards the sort of the bottom right on the floor, you can see that violin over there, and you can see the window panes with the sunshine coming through and so on. It's very old, kind of dilapidated, but very rustic kind of feel. Has a nice vibe to it, sort of, even though the scene doesn't exactly look inside the building the most optimistic, you could still say that, there's something wonderful happening. And I think that kind of echoes a little bit about how the music is for this record. So without further ado, let's dive into each of the tracks. Alright guys, so the first track, and I was most excited. For those who have been following my channel, for those who know me as a big Def Leppard fan, my number one band, you guys know what a big fan I am of the Slang album, right? And for the fact that Leppard actually chose Turn to Dust to be not only to be included in this album, but to be the first song that starts this record off was, wow. And what a job they've actually done. They took a deep cut track, a track that, very, very hardcore fans could probably enjoy. And, fans of the Slang album. And they really made it into something interesting. In fact, I've seen a lot of commentary that, when the way the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra plays is very reminiscent of, what Led Zeppelin did with their song Kashmir. If you guys have checked that song out of the Physical Graffiti album. And the version that they did, with the orchestra and all that, a lot of people saying there's sort of, there's echoes of that. But, well, that goes without saying, because Def Leppard was really heavily influenced by Led Zeppelin. I mean, big heroes to them. And I think what was interesting was that, it starts off where and I think overall, Leppard did a very interesting thing with many tracks. They reimagined a lot of them. They took drums out of certain sections. They took guitar parts out of certain sections. They took vocal harmonies out of certain sections and so on. And over here, they've done that, at the starting point, and it sort of builds up into this huge crescendo, and it flows and it ebbs. And then finally it comes to this sort of, wailing, end. Which just sort of makes you want to listen to more and so on. But it's just a very satisfying way to hear this track. In fact, although I love the original studio version, I think this version really nails it. Okay, next is track number 2, which is Paper Sun off the Euphoria album. And again, very interesting choice. I know a lot of guys who love the Euphoria record always cite Paper Sun as their favorite. It's kind of in the vein of Gods of War, White Lightning, and Die Hard the Hunter, or dare I even say it, Billy's Got a Gun, or even the song On Through the Night. One of these larger than life, deep, serious, more serious tracks. Very guitar driven, and I think the orchestra really nails, or not really nails, but adds something, an additional flavor to this, especially in the middle part. When you have Vivian infiltrating solos, I think that part, especially also when they have this sort of very um, you know operatic vocal harmony that goes off, and the way this sort of complements that, I think that gives it a very nice touch. And I know a lot of folks who prefer this version now than the original studio version. So props to the band and the orchestra for actually getting this one so right. And speaking of reimaginings, I mean, wow. I mean, look what Leppard actually did with the song Animal. I mean, they were very clear. I mean, I remember Joe saying in an interview that they didn't just want to drop, an orchestra right on top of the tracks and just go with that. And Rick Savage was like, we wanted to really see how the two could really mesh together and really work in a sort of harmony, so to speak. So what they did was that over here they stripped away all the instrumentation and primarily kept this big sort of I wouldn't call it bombastic, but very large flourish of orchestral sounds, and leading up to these very high points in the chorus, and then coming down, and even the way the infamous section of where Joe makes that sort of grunting sound before the guitar solo kicks in, that really weaves together so well when you finally hear it. And taking a risk on a track like this, which is known to be like a real hard rocker, was something pretty interesting that the band did, so props to them. And this leads us into track number 4, Pour Some Sugar on Me, where Joe actually shares vocals, I believe, with the artist whose name is M. Griner. Hope I'm not getting her name wrong or even mispronounce it. My apologies. Okay, here's the thing, guys. It's a bold step. It's trying to do something different, and you got to applaud the band for that. It is trying to take a very large, bombastic, heavy sounding, primarily drum beat driven track and make it into something else. I'm not quite sure what the heck the band was doing, and I'm just going to say it. This track is not for me. This version is not for me. I'm sorry. This is cringe-worthy. This is horrible. It should never have been on here and stuff like that. And I think a lot of reviewers agree with me. I'm sorry, guys, but this is the big fail on the album for me. I'm sorry. I just can't. I've tried my level best at least 3 or 4 times to at least try and get through the first minute, but I just can't. I'm sorry. So this track is a big fail for me. So let's skip forward to the next one. And of course, coming into one of the 2 tracks of Leppard's that mean the most to me, Hysteria. Wow, guys. I mean, the orchestra really gives this, uplifting quality. This sort of, ethereal, sort of, I just can't figure out, what other word to add to that. But for those who have heard it, you'd know what I mean. And I think what's wonderful was that, in the middle section, the way they have the orchestra do the solo, the guitar solo that is so famous, for seeing in the video if you watch it, with Steve playing that with Phil standing behind him. It's wonderful. I mean, it really works. I mean, we always knew the orchestra would work with a track like this. I mean, for those of us who kind of imagined it in our minds. But I think they did the track justice. I think it is very well laid out. And it is definitely a lovely listen, and something that you do find yourself putting on repeat quite often. Oh my lord, Love Bites with the orchestra. Guys, this is in the same league as Turn to Dust and Paper Sun. And dare I even say Animal. I mean, the kind of way in which, the band, the original recording, the music is working with the Philharmonic Orchestra, and the way in which it's able to sort of, conjure up this almost, dangerous element, if I could call it that, like just something which makes it, even more impactful. I mean, wow. I mean, these little bits that, come in, as to what the orchestra is doing. I mean, it just gives this track which is already so phenomenal and so beloved, like a new lease of life. I really think that, I really do. I mean, not all of you have to agree with me, but it really gives the track something extra. It gives it this sense of a kind of a refresher of sorts. And it's like you're listening to it for the first time. And it's easy to just put strings and make it, like strings usually add a lot of, depth and quality to a lot of tracks. But here I think, they paid a lot of attention to what they were doing. And I really enjoyed this one. Really, really good. Okay, and again, an interesting choice to add in for track number 7, Goodbye for Good This Time, off the latest record, Diamond Star Halos. And I can see why the band did it. I mean, even on the original recording, it has the orchestra there. And it sounds good. Sounds like, the orchestra is a little more polished on this version. And it makes sense. Lovely to listen to. I liked the track when I first heard it when it came out last year on the record. And yeah, I think the solo that Phil plays, coupled with the way the orchestra is going in sync with him, it resounds really well, and I think it's a really good fit on this record. So a very obvious but smart choice by the band to include it. And wow, guys, okay, again, Love, just like Love Bites, just like Turn to Dust and Paper Sun and so on. This is, there are certain tracks which are in the A League, which are just phenomenal. And the way they've worked on this track, Love, out here, is in the same category. Love it, no pun intended. But I think, it gives the track, again, just like Love Bites, a new lease of life. It's a great way to enjoy a track that, I think Rick Savage primarily wrote, and to really see what they could really do with this one. And dare I say it, I think I prefer this version than the studio version now. Now that I listen to it more often, I'm finding it a little hard to go back to the original one. So I think this one, would probably make the cut for me on my playlist. Again, oh man, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to sound and repeat myself over and over again. I may be doing that even a little later when we cover some other tracks on the record. But wow, Gods of War, the orchestra works. I was a little nervous when I saw this song listed on the track listing when it was announced. But man, I think, again, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra really shows their chops. They demonstrate that they have a right to, play here. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that, they're not worthy. I'm just saying that when these two different worlds are coming together, it can either work or it cannot work. I mean, there have been different bands in the past that have worked with orchestras. Of course, the most famous and one of the most epic records ever heard with an orchestra was Metallica's S&M record, the original one, double disc album that came out in the 1999, if I remember right. And over here, I think Leppard, again, worked very closely trying to figure out, with their with the personnel, with their conductor and so on, as to how they want to approach this. This gives it almost like, Mission Impossible feel, almost like a feel that this could fit on a movie. In fact, there's another track on here that could fit the same way, but I think that, again, there's a lot more punch. There's a lot of very clever thinking as to where the orchestra comes in and where it, provides a sense of, suspense and thrill, so to speak. And overall, it's a very, very polished and very well synced, collaboration on this one. Yeah, Angels Can't Help You Now, track number 10. Very similar to, Goodbye for Good This Time. Angels is also from the Diamond Star Halos album that came out last year. A good choice, smart choice. Again, just like Goodbye for Good This Time, the orchestra sounds, at least to me, a little more polished, a little more prominent, obviously. But I think it works out here, and it's a good flow, in terms of, where it fits in the track listing. So I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, bringing on the heartbreak. I'm going to be honest here, guys. The version that exists on In the Round, In Your Face, obviously the live album, video album, which all of us are familiar with. And you know how Phil plays that beautiful acoustic intro and then it launches into the harder part with Steve really, going full throttle on that one. A very similar format they do in many shows, and I believe is also the version on Mirrorball. It starts off soft and everything goes heavy. I kind of wish that Leopard had followed that format here. I think it could have added a lot of punch. I mean, I do get it, but it sort of feels like, you know, they said they didn't want to just drop an orchestra on top of a track and, just slap it on. But I feel over here it just feels slapped on. Not a lot of thought put into as to how this would work. I know a lot of guys love it. Look, and you don't have to agree with me. I know a lot of you guys who love the band and follow it and, love Drastic Symphonies. I get it. I'm not trying to say it's a bad rendition over here. I'm just saying that it could have been stronger. They could have done a lot more with this. And I think that, adopting the kind of, stylistic format of, in the round as well as on Mirrorball and using that here could have added a lot more punch. So overall, good to listen to, but wish they had tried something different. All right, next one, Switch 625. People, I fully agree with Joe. If this was on the next James Bond movie on the soundtrack, it would fit in so well. Oh man, does this get the blood pumping? Does this really get you going? I mean, it is awesome, beautiful, potent, so well mixed together, so beautifully timed, and such a compliment to the late and great Stephen Maynard Clark, Steve Clark, as we know. And I just think that, I love it. I really love it. I think they did a fabulous job out here. So kudos to the band and kudos to the orchestra. Big thumbs up from my side. Okay, so the thing is that on some album versions, you would probably have as the next track, Have You Ever Needed Someone So Bad as track number 13. It may not be there for everyone. I know it's a bonus track available on certain editions of the album, but I'm just going to mention it here. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a lovely song. I mean, all of us love it. It was nice for them to have a sort of a call out to the Adrenalized record. Since they didn't have, anything else, any other album track on here. So having this was a nice way of calling that out. Yeah, the orchestra works fine. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a lovely track anyway, as I said. And yeah, it's a good compliment. Nothing more to say really beyond that. Okay, now here is a track that has the fan base divided a little bit. Too Late for Love. Now this is where Joe added in, his modern day vocals, because he felt his vocals way back in 1982/1983 when they were making Pyromania, when it came out, it wouldn't really go well with the orchestra. It is included in the latter part of the track. He has said it felt a little weird, him singing and recording his voice to those lyrics in sync, with his, younger self. Felt like, singing along to a ghost. I love it. I love this version. I don't think it takes anything away from the version that we have on Pyromania. I would just encourage anyone who's on the fence about this to just be a little more open and really absorb this track. I mean, because I really think that, there was, again, this is like the A-tier track, fitting along with, Turn to Dust and, Love Bites and Gods of War and so on. So how they've done things here. And I think that the band was really trying to figure out, how do they, again, create something new and refreshing that could really work. And I think they did a killer job on this. I get goosebumps when I hear this version. Really. I mean, I think it really, is something that, deserves a lot of love, a lot of repeat listens and so on. And I know a lot of Leppard fans agree with me. Those who don't, I'd love to hear from you. I respect everyone's opinion. Everyone's entitled to that. But for me, I think the band killed it. They really killed it on this one. Okay, we all knew when Love and Hate Collide was going to be on here, right? And the thing is that, yeah, okay, but you know what to me it sounds like, guys? It just feels like the orchestra has been jacked up volume-wise to 10. There's nothing really new here, because just like, Bring On the Heartbreak, I was trying to, in fact, find this version which a fan had done of, taking the backing orchestra track and the piano and everything and creating a new version out of this song, which was beautiful. I just can't seem to find that. If any of you do, please share it. I'll try and share it in the link if I get it once this video is done. But that version was, taking something and creating something completely new. and I think it worked extremely well. I just wish the band had done it here. It felt like, they just said, okay, we need to put this track on, and they said, okay, let's focus on the others because they don't have an orchestra. This one has an orchestra, so therefore, we're just going to just jack up the volume a little bit and so on. It's wonderful to hear, but it I just feel it could have had something more. That's again not taking anything away from it, but it's like we've heard this before. You know what I mean? Just my thoughts. If you guys feel different, love to know from you what you think. But that's it for this track. And what concludes with track number 16 is Kings of the World. This was one of 3 songs that the band had recorded and put onto their first live record official release, which was Mirrorball a few years ago. Kings of the World, obviously heavily inspired by the band Queen. Rick Savage, if I remember right, was the main composer of this track. It's fine. I know a lot of guys love it. It's good, but it's never been one of my favorite songs of the band. I know it's theirs, but it still sounds like a cover song, to be honest with you. That doesn't take away from its quality. I still think it's a good song, but it's fine. It's just maybe, and it was a nice touch to think of, putting it as a final track to close the record out. So that would be it. And so coming to the final part, where a lot of you were asking that if suppose Leppard was to ever release a Drastic Symphonies Part 2, what song should they include? So here you have it. And I would say it would be something like this, that from On Through the Night, the song Overture, that would really work well. And if the band can convince Joe to get over his hatred of that record, I think that would work well. No offense, Joe, if you're listening. Love you, man. But we really would love to see this track, many of us, with an orchestra behind it. High and Dry, perhaps the song Mirror Mirror Look Into My Eyes would work really well. Pyromania, I wouldn't think of any other song besides Too Late for Love, but you guys let me know what you think might be a good choice. Hysteria, perhaps the song Love and Affection, that could work well. And for the Adrenalize record, definitely like so many fans and me, the song Tonight, White Lightning. Oh yeah, I think that White Lightning would work extremely well. And although it is a song that I personally love, I would still want to include Stand Up, Kick Love into Motion. I just love that track. So I really think that it's a song they should include. Off Retroactive, I definitely would think Fractured Love. Can you imagine those cellos going in the background, these big drums? Wow. That would really be something. And in addition to Fractured Love, we could have tracks like Two Steps Behind. I know it's got an orchestra, I know it's already been done, but just like I was saying, if they could reimagine it in a certain way, that would be really cool. And not to forget the song Miss You in a Heartbeat. I think that would be a song that would work well. Or even for the song From the Inside. That would again be a very interesting pick, so they should consider that. From Slang, 3 tracks, definitely Blood Runs Cold, Where Does Love Go When It Dies, and Pearl of Euphoria. Especially when you think of Pearl of Euphoria and how sinister that would sound with an orchestra behind it. Menacing. I would love that. Euphoria, I'm very tempted to say, like they did with Switch 625, maybe Disintegrate. Be kind of interesting to see what they could do there, and even the song To Be Alive. I'd like to see if they could do something around that. And off of X, a very obvious choice would be Long, Long Way to Go. And I would then say from songs from the Sparkle Lounge, maybe the first track, which is Go. I think that would kind of work well. And off the self-titled record, Def Leppard, I would probably say We Belong, and even the song Man Enough. Can you imagine if the orchestra could work with Leppard and actually do something with the song Man Enough? How cool would that be? And of Diamond Star Halos, I would actually say, I'm quite tempted to say that it would be, for obvious reasons, this guitar, lifeless, and maybe open your eyes, because it's like, the heavy, most serious track on the album. So I would say that that would be a very interesting thing to sort of hear. But those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from the rest of you. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much, guys, for listening, and thanks to all of you who have written in to ask me about my review. Here it is. As I said, you don't have to agree with me, but would love to know what you liked. What did you find pretty cool on the album? Would you look forward to a Drastic Symphonies Part 2? Let me know in the comments below. Do take care, God bless, and rock on.